Greetings, all you humans out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of Star versus the Forces of Evil. This time it's Season 4's Episode 3, split into two parts. So we'll be talking about the first part, called Moon Remembers First, and then the second part later, called Swimsuit. But we pick up not too long after the previous episode, where we see Moon returning to the capital of Muni, I guess I should phrase that, as, Star and has basically been regaling Moon with the goings-on in her absence for the most part, and just kind of trying to, get her mom's approval to a certain degree, just to kind of make sure her mom isn't disappointed, because that's a big thing. Star's just kind of been seen as a greater disappointment to the humans as a whole, and so she's become very self-conscious about this, especially in the eyes of her mother. But it becomes apparent that, Moon doesn't remember everything, but she remembers good chunks of certain things, so she's not completely in the dark for the most part. Certain things have, come back to her slowly but surely. But ultimately, Marco kind of calls Star out on the one thing that she's kind of omitted for the most part. She's gone into Eclipse's rule, the handing over of the kingdom, all that good stuff, but not the fact that Globgor is imprisoned within the new Mumin capital. But Star is completely opposed to telling her mom anything in regards to this, as she's not quite sure how her mom will take it. And she needs some time to kind of figure out a good way of just, being like, hey mom, the Mumin Eater is imprisoned within the castle, and Eclipse is trying her darndest to free him. But, we even have slight moments where Moon even remembers Ludo and his antics for the most part. So she is on the path to recovery for the most part. And, Star shows off the decor that, Eclipse has that's not quite what you'd expect. But at the same time, it's exactly what you'd expect from Meteora. And speaking of, Eclipse, and speaking of which, Eclipse kind of apologizes for the whole situation, the spell that led to a lot of Moon's suffering, the various losses, the turning over of the kingdom, just an overall regrettable situation between their two relationships. But Moon, for the most part, seems to just be very earnestly okay with everything. There's this uneasy air between them, but Moon seems to be taking it for the most part very well and very kindly. She's not, overreacting to the whole situation. Eclipse even brings up Globgor, but, Moon can't quite remember that name for the most part. And, Star has Marco create a distraction, which involves Marco basically actually falling down the friggin' stairs, because Marco's just that prone to clumsiness. But, as everyone goes to check up on him, Star tells Eclipse, hey, I don't know if my mom's really ready to actually know about Globgor just quite yet. The whole human monster integration is already a bit of a big thing to kind of put out there. Globgor could just tip things in a really bad direction. So we end up having a bit of a distraction with, Moon and Eclipse kind of bonding over, this love of the guitar for the most part, especially Eclipse in terms of, heavy metal guitar shredding solos and stuff like that. But Marco's just like, yo, Star, it's great that they're bonding, they seem to be genuinely happy, but you gotta rip this band-aid off. Your mom will understand if you just lay it all out on the line. And after they notice that Moon has completely disappeared, they come to find her already viewing the efforts to free Globgor. And, Star's just not sure how her mom's gonna take all of this for the most part. She tries to be like, hey, I tried to tell you, I was trying to figure out the best way to inform you that Globbor's here and they're trying to free him and all that good stuff. But, Moon understands, understands that Eclipsa is desperate to be with her loved one. There's no real judgment on, both sides, on either side. It's just like, we understand. So, Moon, I really do love this kind of more understanding, sympathetic, just, not overly harsh version of Moon that we're seeing here. She tended to be a little bit catty in certain areas previously, but she seems to just be very more down to earth than she ever was before. And, not knowing how much of things she truly remembers kind of makes you wonder, it's just like, is it because she doesn't remember too much, or is it because she remembers too much? It really makes you wonder where this, frame of her personality is really coming from in the end. And, Star's completely taken aback by how simple that seems to have been. And so, all the humans and monsters sit down to have a little bit of a, lunch break from things, have dinner. And for the most part, it seems like Eclipsa and Moon are just bonding over their children. And so, they seem like genuine, actual friends. Two people who, are just, shooting the shit for the most part, honestly. And, Star's very taken aback by this, because it's just like, this is everything she wanted. She, a sense of normalcy, a sense of niceness, of comfort, that things are, are gonna be okay for the most part. And this is kind of takes her out of the moment when Moon's just like, yeah, me and River are just gonna leave. And they just bounce right there and then. And when Star's just like, well, where are you going? What are you going to do? It's just like, Moon just lays it flat out. She doesn't trust Eclipsa. They were getting along well, but there's still this underlying sense of distrust that that's not just gonna easily go away. But not only that, Moon and River just kind of want to go out and do their own thing, just be together for the most part. And, they very, not in a controlling way, but in a way that, two parents who are talking to their child who has grown to make their own decisions, would, act towards each other, just like, hey, Star, you want to come? She's like, no, I kind of want to stay back and see this through. This feels like my responsibility. And they honor that, and they just leave. They go about their business, and it's such a shocking thing on both people's ends, both the audience and Star's end, because it was such a mature way of approaching this. It's just like, Moon tells Star, it's just like, I don't completely agree with what you did, but you made a decision, and that's what we kind of have to live with. It's a decision that's been made. We can't just up and revolt against that, because that would create anarchy and chaos. So we're just gonna do our own thing, live our own lives, and if you want to see this through, that's perfectly fine. That's your choice, your decision. You've grown into someone who can do those things and have the competency to do those things, so we'll just allow you to do that. And it's just, this, it's such a juxtaposition to the Star that we saw at the beginning of the series, who, oftentimes just wanted to, have her own freedom, to go wild, to do her own thing, to not be controlled by anyone. And now we have that Star who's just very uncertain about these things. That's adult life in a nutshell. Just having this uncertainty about your actions, not truly knowing where to go or what to do or how to approach certain things, or knowing if you made the right decision. And yeah, adult life is full of things there. It's just like, you don't always make the correct decision. You don't always have all the answers, and you kind of just have to live with that sometimes. It doesn't mean you should let it consume your very existence, but just understand, sometimes you just make bad choices and you just have to deal. And it's not about don't always make it about the decisions that you make then and there. Make it about what you do moving forward in order to either remedy those decisions, address those decisions, or fix those decisions. But you made those decisions. Move forward and progress and grow. So beautiful portion of this episode. And then we move on to swimsuit, where we have, Marco, Tom, and Star getting ready for a bit of a beach day, because Star's still kind of dwelling on that photograph from the future that she had, where it's just like, we'll finally get to that perfect moment where it's just gonna be like, okay, I can finally just accept things. We've gotten to that point in the future where everything's just okay, it's fine, it's good, you move forward. And I even love the fact that Tom's just like, wait, why am I not in this picture? Addressing the fact that, there's that constant looming feeling of just like, yeah, Tom, Star's not as interested in you as she's letting on, which I feel bad for Tom, because it feels like he knows something is deeply up, but he's just trying to be cool about it because he's, Star's boyfriend, Marco's friend, he's trying to be this nicer, cooler guy for the most part. But we also have this moment where Marco ends up, not being able to find his swimsuit and ending up being in Globgor's old swimsuit, which raises a lot of questions. But, Eclipsa comes in to talk to Star about a bit of a situation she has on hand, and unfortunately it's not a great one, as it turns out that, Romulus is in this kind of messed up, warped state for the most part. And as it turns out, Eclipsa had gone to Romulus to see if he would free Globgor, but Romulus, being his usual abrasive, non-listening, overly violent, very loud and impulsive self, really got under Eclipsa's skin, and she just cursed him in a variety of different ways. And, when Star talks to Glossaric about the whole situation, he's just like, yeah, I didn't say I'd actually help fix this. And we also find out that Glossaric can be in two places at once, as he's also with Marco, who has one of, Glossaric's bathing suits that are few sizes too small, cutting off some circulation here and there. But, Glossary's just like, hey, I told Eclipsa to get you because you probably have the answer, which just, again, shows the amount of responsibility that's constantly heaped on Star for the most part, as a bit of an advisor for the most part as well to Eclipsa. As, Star's just like, I don't really know what to do, but she tells Eclipsa, hey, just reverse your spells for the most part. And Eclipse is just like, oh, that's actually such a simple solution. I don't know why I didn't think about that. But, it also makes sense because Eclipsa only had so much actual training before she just kind of went off to do her own thing. So, you don't know how much of a actual handle on things that Eclipsa truly has. But she reverses all the spells she put on Romulus, and once Romulus wakes up, Eclipsa tries to apologize for the most part, but Romulus isn't having any of it. Even when Star tells Eclipsa to apologize, Romulus is just, the two are just at each other's throats for the most part. With Romulus being very unreasonable, and, Eclipsa trying her best to stay civil about the whole situation, but once the fact that Globgor used to be a Mumin Eater is brought up, it's kind of like, wait, what? But Eclipsa simply says, it's just like, Globgor hasn't done that since they started being together. So there's actually a solid change in the way they, interact with Mumins that, Romulus just is not having any of. But Star tries to have the two kind of talk things out for the most part, act like adults, while she, a child, goes off and does her own thing. But no sooner does Star get to the door that all discussion breaks down, and she has to just continue to step in, and a whole magic battle just breaks out between the two of them, with everyone getting cursed this way and that way with spells of hypnosis or insecurity and stuff like that, until Romulus is affected by it and brought to his insecurity about his muscle mass for the most part, and they just Romulus is kind of incapacitated. Meteora is on the attack, and Star just unleashes like this big attack that sees one of Romulus's little nipple demons shattered and freed. So he goes on a rampage. Who knows what kind of chaos that'll bring? But Star calls out to Romulus. It's just like, look, this happened because you're just not willing to listen and understand and really take in what's going on around you. But this is cut out short by Meteora casting a spell that switches Romulus. I said Meteora again. Eclipsa casting a spell that switches Romulus's mind into Eclipse's body and Eclipse's mind into Romulus's body, which shows that she has very little control over his crystallization magic. But she does manage to use it and start to free Globgor. But Star calls out to Eclipse and is just like, hey, if you want people to truly trust you and give you a chance, for the most part, this isn't the way to do it. Forcing yourself into people's bodies and violating them is not a way to truly gain trust. Man, Eclipse succeeds in this. Eclipse doesn't want to constantly be seen as a bad person, even when she's so close to freeing someone she cares about. And as Romulus is set back into his body and Eclipse tries to apologize, Romulus is having none of it, refreezes the parts of Globgor that were free, and he pieces out. So, mutual Romulus affair. But Eclipse thanks Star for helping steer her away from becoming exactly what so many people see her as an evil person. And, for the most part, Star's kind of taken aback because it's just like she's constantly having to make these very adult and serious, declarations and, addressing these situations that are a little above her head for the most part. But, that's what being an adult truly is, just having these moments where you just have to kind of wing it and just make judgment calls, that can impact other people's lives who are just as lost as you are for the most part. But Star, for the most part, is handling it fairly well. And, I like that this is what this season is really trying to drive home, and that Star really has to just continue to make judgment calls without other people telling her how to handle things. It's her telling other people how to handle things. That's growth, that's progression, that's development. And, Star is kind of rewarded to a certain degree since the beach day was completely nixed for the most part. Tom and Marco decided to set up a beach day in the castle for them. And, they have this sweet little moment. And it's, very nice. It's kind of a payoff for Star's, just completely ruined day for the most part. But this season continues to just hit home at that Star has to be the one to just be in charge, make the leadership decisions, and show that maybe she was the right person to make queen. Maybe her decisions aren't as bad as certain people make them out to be. She goes for the greater good rather than the easy solution nowadays, and that's growth, that's progression, and that shows what she is truly capable of, and why maybe we might end this series as a whole with Star coming to rule the entirety of Mutiny. But hey, tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comment section below. The other episode has already been released. They keep releasing them back to back, so I'll address that when I can. But tell me your thoughts on this specific episode. These two episodes, the A section and the B section, in the comment section below. What was your favorite part? What did you think about Moon deciding she still doesn't trust Eclipse, but she's still willing to be civil with Eclipse? And the whole situation with Romulus, do you think he'll ever be made to turn around on his stance as Globgor being a no-good Mumin Eater? Will that ever change in Romulus's eyes? And ultimately, why is Glossaric just continuing to just allow everything to be heaped on Star no matter what might come their way? Star has become a de facto voice of reason in terms of matters in regards to Eclipsa, and we'll just have to see how far that can actually go once Cloudgore is completely freed and what he decides once he is freed. But, again, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you liked this video, feel free to leave me a like. And if you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. And hey, maybe tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below so I might better myself for future videos. But until then, hey, how about leaving me a subscription? Just subscribe for more episode reviews of Star versus the Forces of Evil, because it continues to be a shining good time. But until then, take care.